Let's see, I actually want to get a groove going with this. Oh, Plasmonic won't let me get a groove. Oh, how dare you. Welcome everybody. How you doing? We're just playing around, having some fun. I'm playing with Plasmonic. Let me get some drums going here. We'll get one of the big percussion things going. BPM perk. Down here at the end. I hope you all are doing well today. Let's get Plasmonic up on the front here. We have a really fun live stream planned, my goodness. We're gonna be looking at Trilian 1.5 and talking about updates because they have updated all of their plugins. Let's see. Hopefully everything looks okay. Good times, good times. So, okay, let me do this. I need to put, let's see here. What, if there's a way I can hit edit. I'm always talking to myself when I'm doing these things. Is there a URL? I never can figure out the URL stuff on this, but I'm just gonna go cancel. I don't want to hang up on anybody. Let's see. YouTube, the plug-in guru. There. I'm putting up a post on Facebook to get some other people to come over and hang out. So we'll get maximum visual going on. So I hope you all are well. Let's see. Publish, please. There we go. Okay, so to start today, let me see what's going on in the chat real quick. Make sure I haven't missed anything important over here. Good to see you all. Wow, a lot of you are here already. Hi, Daniela. Everybody's saying where they're coming from. Amsterdam, from Switzerland, from Germany, from Bend, Oregon. It's probably snowing down there, right? Hey, Les. Good to see you all. So we have Plasmonic to talk about. And even cooler, we have the creator of Plasmonic. Brian Clevinger is going to join us in a moment from Paris, outside of Paris, I believe. And talk to all of you, answer questions, get to do a cool hang. Hey, the live stream notification just popped up, so people will be showing up. Cool. I hope you all are well. Also today, I have a really cool plugin to show you that's available right now for actually $29 called Hex Drum. It is a drum synth. And I love this thing. It is so cool. And it's been unified already. And the link for the unified version of the library is in the video description. So you can download that. I'll show you where to get the plugin. But here, let me show you what it sounds like because it can do all these really cool Simmons-y kinds of, I'm having it do weird stuff here. Let's go up here to the normal line. Here's the blinded me. Simmons, man. Here's the interface. We'll talk about this more in a little bit, but it's from a company called Oblivion Sound Lab. In fact, here, I'll give you a link. So if you guys want to get it to follow along when we get to this part of the live stream, it's Oblivion Sound Lab Hex Drum. Here's the link. I'll put it into our chat. And if you like Simmons synthetic drums and all that kind of stuff, and what's really fun with this is it can do the Simmons, all this kind of stuff, but it can also go really cool places. I did like Birdie, which is like hip hop, man. Or Bossa Nova. Right? So all sorts of stuff. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, like I mentioned, Trilian has released an update, which is really, really cool. Spectrasonics released an update to Trilian. They've actually updated Omnisphere and everything else as well. Let me get back over here to Prismatic. But to start the live stream, I have a treat for you guys. Gosh, Brian. Let's bring in Brian. Brian Clevinger is here. And bye-bye Plasmonic. Hello, Brian.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thanks
We're
for
good.
having me.
Yo, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for agreeing to join up and say hi with everybody. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I want to point out we did do compatibility checks, and I have laptops with Big Sur running, and Unify is working with Big Sur, which is cool. Have you got something working with Big Sur? Have you played with that yet, Brian?
No, that's something I need to do.
Yeah. It seems pretty, I'm surprised. Most everything seems to just, work pretty well. So it's kind of interesting that it's not one of these where like you're going from the Motorola chip to the Intel chip. And
yeah.
That was a huge mess back in the day. Anyway, this is Brian Clevinger. Let me give you a little background. Brian is a mad scientist in the world of electronic music, and we are lucky to have someone like him that is part of this field. He created Absinthe, 1990, 2000?
2000, yeah.
And
20 years ago.
Yeah, it was one of the first virtual synth plugins, right?
Yeah, it was. There wasn't much around then.
No, it was. And I mean, really, I think it was truly one of the very first commercial. I think some DAWs had started to have instruments in them, but I think that it was one of the first ones. And I picked up Absinthe and was just blown away with its originality and, a fresh take on things and all that kind of stuff that it offered. And so you have quite a history because around Absinthe 3, it became part of Native Instruments?
No, it was Absinthe 1.
Absinthe 1?
Yeah, I mean, there was the original version that was just a standalone.
Yes.
It wasn't even a plugin. The VSTI thing was really new, and
right.
Anyway, but yeah, then NI picked it up. But yeah, by 2001 it was an NI product.
Wow. Yeah. So it was one of the early building blocks for them. I didn't realize that.
It's pretty early, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Reactor had been around for a while.
Right. Well, yeah, they'd done the Dynamo series, I remember, back in the day, all that kind of stuff. Mm. Yeah. And so what was fun with Absinthe, I mean, what do you like about Absinthe? As a creator looking back on it now, what do you look at and go, I'm really happy that I developed this because...
Early stuff that I really liked was like the Waveform Editor.
Yes.
I was real happy with that because people had made these kind of things before, but it was always kind of, you'd be editing the wave and it would get some glitch in it and you couldn't get it out. And
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so I was happy with that. The envelopes, of course.
Yes.
Was a big deal.
Yeah, it has still. I don't think anything that I have seen has as powerful of an envelope as Absinthe.
Yeah.
To be able to modulate each segment is really nice. Really love that part of it because you could have on one slider one rhythm and move a slider up and change it to be a different rhythm.
Yes.
All sorts of
Yeah.
really creative things were cool. I loved it had auto making pulses. It was one of the first that was just really easy to generate. And now you've got a pulsing envelope without having to draw it by hand or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, during development, I got tired of making all these individual breakpoints.
Yes.
Manually. So, I came up with these kind of automatic ways of doing a few things.
And they work really well. So awesome. Yeah, I love how it's just out of the box. It's not trying to be an analog synthesizer. It really has its own, own unique instrument. To
me, working on a computer with a computer interface and everything, it was like, this is something totally different.
Yeah.
and I want to see what I could do with this instead of emulating hardware.
Right. It's wonderful. So it's a pleasure to have known you for so long and been able to, we've done a lot together. We did a lot of little Absinthe projects. There used to be a Yahoo Absinthe users group. This month we're doing pads. And so all the people that were there.
Day.
Yeah. Love Day for Valentine's Day one year and stuff like that. All sorts of fun things.
Rap Vocals Day.
What's that?
Rap Vocals Day. It was kind of a joke, but
we actually got it. Somebody did some talking stuff, right?
Kind of vocal.
Yeah.
Sort of talking sounding.
Yeah.
Sounds with it.
Yeah, and I loved how you were always trying to go for like cymbals and all sorts of really complex harmonic things out of Absinthe.
Oh yeah. Well, it's true. I'm always, whenever I hear a sound, I'm always thinking, oh, how can I synthesize that? What's missing?
Yeah.
In my arsenal to make a sound like that. And yeah, cymbals.
Yes.
Cymbals is a toughie.
Cymbals are a tough one because they do all sorts of things. But it's always fun to study. It's one of those, Brian's one of these programmers that when he releases something, it takes a while to study it and see, okay, oh, really? You're using that this way? Oh, wow. And, the new. Now, one of my favorite effects in Absinthe is the etherizer. Yeah. Where did that idea come from?
It came from listening to Rain. And I was thinking of there's actually a lot of different sounds in the world that you could consider granular sounds.
Yes.
Like wind blowing in a tree. It's all the leaves touching each other and making little sounds, but there's a lot of it happening.
Right.
So it makes this big cloud of sound. And granular synthesis was something that always interested me.
Right.
But more the cloud approach, making these big diffuse kind of textures.
Right.
And and Absinthe already had a granular sample mangler.
Right.
And so I had the idea of making it into effects, doing something similar with effects.
Gotcha. And, let's see here. I have to take care of something. Apparently a link that I created is broken. Bad Skippy. Well, I love that effect, and it's so useful and different, It's one of those, it has a perfect name because how can you describe? It's a name that's unique to its. What does the name mean?
A guy at NI, Matt Jackson, came up with that name.
Oh wow!
So ether, it's like actually I think it was an old physics term.
Yes.
From before Einstein, that there was this substance ether that
sure
went through the universe and and it was disproved by Einstein.
Right.
So
that makes sense for an audio. You can't describe it any other way, so it definitely fits into that category. All right, everybody, on the video, I've updated the link. So if you go to the link in the video description, you should be able to get the Hex Drum library. Sorry about that. We updated it quickly this morning. We had a grammatic. If you have a large I in MIDI files for the name files, it breaks things. So hopefully it is fixed. Here, I'll put it into the chat here too. So link fixed. And Shane, I can't switch over in Skype because I'm interviewing Brian, but just send a message. It's fine because my screen is blocking any messages. So we're all good. So, okay, continuing on. So Absinthe is at Absinthe 5. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, it's been at Absinthe 5 for quite a while. Is there any comment to Absinthe 6?
Not really, because Absinthe is an NI product.
Yes.
They're the ones who decide to do it or not. Then they would be the ones to announce the availability or future or whatever.
Okay.
So it's not really something I can talk about
Okay. Yeah, of course.
one way or the other.
Right. Right.
You know.
Well, we
So
hope there's still a future. It's a
I do
wonderful
too.
synth, and
Thanks.
yeah, we want to keep it going. Well, that's a nice segue to where we are now. You have released a beta version, and I believe I have in the video description. If you go to the video description, you can get to a page on Plasmonic that will lead to a link. You can download a demo of what we're going to be looking at. This is a new synthesizer Brian has created that is really unique. Let me see here. I need to quit Unify and then go to here. Sorry. I'm going to open Plasmonic and we'll look at this interface. It's over the top of you for a minute, Brian, but can you what's the history of Plasmonic? How long have you been working on this?
I've been working on Plasmonic about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Specifically, I mean, there are elements of it I was working on before.
Right.
And I wanted to start making instruments that were more focused
yes.
on a certain kind of approach or a certain kind of sound. And I've actually got ideas for about 6 more
good.
instruments. I don't know which ones will happen and which ones won't, but
right.
So Plasmonic was just the one that seemed easiest actually to make.
Right.
So the basic idea was to build something around a delay-based filter.
Yes.
You know, basically a fancy comb filter, and combine that with subtractive synthesis with more familiar synthesis techniques, rather than the usual physical modeling approach. Yeah, I like physical modeling. There are aspects of physical modeling I really like.
Right.
The way the sounds resonate.
Yes.
You know, these kind of complex resonances. That's a really interesting thing. So I wanted to have something that would have that sort of quality to it, this kind of semi-acoustic quality. But I wanted you to be able to make sounds the way you do it with the subtractive synthesizer, basically.
Right. So it's not a true physical model in the sense of like all the delay guides, and
there's a few elements of a physical modeling instrument, but in a real physical modeling, kind of like we were saying earlier, you've got all these different components that are like connected together and they're feeding back into each other, and they have this really complex relationship. And you change some parameter, and you know, then it goes out of tune, or
blows up.
It doesn't make sound anymore, or it blows up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's not physical modeling in that sense. It's not a.
But it does have a really nice.
It's like a string.
Right.
You know, it's like a string, and you feed sounds through it.
But a lot of the sounds definitely have an acoustic quality to them. I'm just going to play a couple of the sounds. And as you can see from the way that the interface is, you have 4 different sound sources. You have 2 oscillators, you have an impulse, and you have noise. And then down here you have a resonator and a multi-mode filter. Actually, it's a ladder filter, which makes it actually have a really nice character to it. And you can choose by clicking the little on-off buttons whether the 4 elements are going into the filter, into the resonator, and then over here you can choose whether they just, you know, are 2 separate things that are programmed and then go down into the rest of the saturator, EQ, effects, and so forth. And over here is all your modulation stuff. What I think is really cool is that anytime you go to any parameter, you can see that you've got 2 sets of arrows. One arrow is for coarse, and then another side you can move for fine. So typically when you're programming, a lot of times it's like, well, if you want to change into small, you have to hold down shift, right? Was that part of the thinking, Brian, behind having the coarse and the fine?
Exactly. Absinthe had that too.
Oh.
You know, Absinthe's controls had these little buttons you would drag on.
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of a big improvement on that, I think, because it's easier to click on.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. Because when I'm making sounds, I've always got my left hand on the keyboard,
Right.
and I'm always willing to do fine control. You know, there's always I don't want to have to take my hand off the keyboard and the sound stops, or
Right.
you know,
Takes you out of your flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an attempt to, and the result is you never use the fine control.
Right. You don't need to, because it's just right here to use. It's just when you're working with it, be aware that there is a large set of arrows and a small set of arrows. It was confusing to me at first until I just realized it just gives you access to 2 resolutions of changing things. And so it gives you fine control without, like Brian said, of having to like hold down modifier keys, take your hands off the keyboard. You can keep working while playing and get fine control. Where did the idea for Trigger come from?
Well, I was thinking about the ADSRs and like having them loop or something like that.
Right.
And then I thought it would kind of make more sense to have a separate impulse generator or trigger generator.
Right. Well, it's wonderful.
Yeah, those are really handy.
Yeah. And since there's 3 of them. I was going to say 4, but there's 3. But there's room below for more. Hey.
Room for expansion.
Room for expansion.
I don't know what'll go there.
Right.
But, you know.
But it's really cool. With 3 of them, you can get cool rhythms and counter rhythms and all sorts of things. You can modulate the speed of these. So as you can hear in this patch, and if you come over here to the speed, you can see as you click here, you get a little tool thing. If you click this, it opens up the modulation panel where you can see what is modulating that parameter. And this is the case with everything in Plasmonic. So it's the more sounds change automatically without you having to move controls, the more you're going to think of it as an acoustic instrument, it seems to me, right? Is that how you think of it, Brian?
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, to make sounds interesting, there needs to be a lot of detail. It needs to be really dynamic.
Yeah.
The parameters should really all be moving in some way, I think, ultimately.
Right.
And it should be really easy to do that.
Yeah.
It should be really easy to just use as much modulation as you want. And you don't have to drag something from somewhere just to see what it does.
Right.
You just turn things up, and
there it is.
Doesn't do what you like, then you turn it off and do something else.
Right. It's just the idea of what's really fun, guys. When you click a parameter, your modulation parameters stay here, so they don't go away. So you still have access to the speed, the rate, the envelopes. Are we going to see multi-segment envelopes in the future, maybe?
No.
No? Just ADSRs?
No. I might be able to make the ADSRs more interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to ever have these breakpoint style envelopes.
Okay. It's cool how it is. But, you know, the challenge is using the parameters that you have to work with to see what you come up with. So it have to ask. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat from anybody. Do you guys have any questions for our friend Brian? The 3 break tweaker libraries have been unified. Yes. We have all sorts of questions. When you get a whole bunch of people in a chat, we get questions in all sorts of different directions. But if you have questions, please post them here. Will there be a cool randomized feature like in Absinthe? Michael asks.
I don't have plans for that now. So the way the randomizer in Absinthe works was really specific to Absinthe.
Yeah.
The way it's structured, you know, where you'd have like one envelope controlling one parameter, kind of thing. So, I mean, the way it works in Absinthe is it like goes through existing presets and it grabs modules with the envelope settings and stuff. So, you know, basically it's like pulling out little instruments and sticking them together.
I see.
And Plasmonic, yeah, that wouldn't quite work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could imagine maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
I mean, the
I
fun
don't
thing,
have plans for that.
right? No plans right now. I mean, a number of the parameters you can work with, and they will quickly randomize things for you. It seems sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
there's a real, I mean, there's a live random generator
Right.
modulator.
Well, yeah. Go into the is it the LFOs can go to chaos, right?
There's that too. Yeah, actually, each LFO has, I think, 3 LFOs inside it, and they're all modulating each other.
Oh, right.
And in a weird way, they've got a weird frequency ratio, and then they modulate each other, and that's where the chaos
Right.
is coming from.
We love that. Okay, we got lots of good questions. Where do you see innovation coming in 2021 and beyond? There's a good one.
That's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not thinking in terms of like specific synthesis techniques or some new technology that's going to change everything. I mean, developing Plasmonic's been kind of a learning experience for me, because I remember a few years ago with some other developers, a conversation where we were all just like, everything's been done already. You know, we can't do anything new. Everything's been done. And it was really depressing.
I don't see that. Do you see that?
At the time, I kind of did.
Yeah.
Kind of. But, you know, something new comes from a lot of little pieces put together in a way that's a little bit different, or opens up some different possibilities. And it's not like, you know, one silver bullet, you know, DSP algorithm that's going to, I mean, things have been going on for so long now, and it's a mature technology. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So, you know, I don't see big innovations in that sense, but you know, and it's a focus on what people want too, what people want to develop.
Well, I think Plasmonic is fun because it has this element of new to it. You know, the sounds that it's making, the way that it makes them, because it's different with different tools. It kind of, you know, it's organic, but I just really think I really love the video you posted with MPE control. It seems like Plasmonic really can go a lot of places once you get to having more than just note on and note off velocities and a couple controllers to work with.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. I want it to work really well with MPE controllers and all these really cool. I think this is a really cool development, actually. I'm talking about big developments. Is more the hardware, controller hardware, and that these alternate controllers are getting more and more sophisticated and playable.
Yes, totally. Now, they're in France. Have you worked with the Expression E people?
No, I haven't.
Because I didn't order one of theirs. They had at the end of last year where you could pre-order. But that seemed like a really interesting. I love the Rolly. I have a Rolly. I actually sent it to Shane for some stuff he's doing with MPE, but it's just so difficult to be very accurate because it's just one surface, whereas the Expression E was kind of some of that controllability, but it still had moving keys. And, I really see that Plasmonic especially has kind of like aimed in that direction of being an expressive instrument, you know?
Yeah, it's very meant that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my things to focus on, was making something that was very playable. Yeah. And not so much like the soundscape instrument like Absinthe. Yeah. Where you hold one note down and it plays a composition. Right. You know?
Right.
I wanted it to be really responsive as an instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever type of controller you're using, but especially with these new with the rollies and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's part of the modulation system. You can modulate any parameter with
Right.
the MPE
Right.
controls, and really the way I imagine what I want Plasmonic, the experience of using Plasmonic to be. I
Yeah.
imagine you're playing. It sounds cool, sounds good, and you hit a note, and it does something a little different. You play the note, you hit it just right, and something kind of magic happens.
Right.
It sounds a little different from the other notes in a way that's kind of surprising, and because that's what it's like when you're playing a real instrument. I mean,
Right.
acoustic instrument.
Yeah, you
Or
have a bass behind you,
yeah,
so
if I'm playing my bass, I mean, and it changes,
yeah.
depending on the state of the strings and the
Yeah.
weather, the humidity and stuff, and I'll hit a note and it kind of has this bloom to it, like it kind of like a filter opening
Yes.
effect. And it's like, wow, how did it do that? And it
Yeah, you
usually
play it
doesn't.
again and it doesn't do it, right?
And that kind of response, it makes you want to play, it makes you want to play the instrument. So
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. As virtual instruments get more complex, do you have more parameters to modify? Do you see AI being implemented more to help the user towards his or her goal or target?
AI is something I don't know anything at all about,
Yeah.
really. And I mean, there would be that kind of an approach to AI where you would have a conventional DSP synthesis system, and the AI is somehow making decisions. Actually, when I made the randomizer for Absinthe,
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to make some kind of chaos-based sort of semi-AI thing.
Right.
And it didn't turn out like that at all. It ended up just using what sound designers had made and changing it a little bit. But so anyway, so that's like one approach. And then there's the AI approach of the AI is actually generating the sound somehow. And this is really fascinating. I think the results are really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine how you would control it creatively.
Mm.
This is like a big question mark in the future. How to work with that creatively.
Yeah, if you could pick up on brain waves in a way.
And that too, yeah.
And have that become a modulation source to, like, you think a certain way or a certain color. Who knows what? I mean,
but that goes back like to the 70s. Like Alvin Lucier, I think, did that. He did some piece with brainwaves, controlling a modular synthesizer or something.
I know it's been done.
I mean, it just kind of makes things go up and down.
Right.
It's
right.
Not,
oh, we got someone's asking, what is AI? AI is more where the computer is like interpolating what you're playing and adding who knows what. I mean,
I don't know what it would do.
Yeah.
I mean, usually the way AI works, as I understand it, is that you feed it a bunch of stuff to listen to.
Right.
Or to look at or read or whatever. And it ends up developing a sense of these patterns. It detects patterns and somehow regurgitates this into something. Right. I don't know. But yeah, how could you use that in a performance instrument? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember one AI experiment that I thought was really kind of intriguing. It sounded like it was piano. It had been training on piano, listening to people play piano, and it sounded like piano. It was very bad quality audio, but it sounded like a real piano, but really out of tune. And it sounded like somebody was playing it, but playing just completely random, sort of avant-garde kind of stuff, but it had this kind of phrasing and stuff that sounded real, and it was like, this is really bizarre. This is really strange.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Yes, it's just like if you were playing and it was changing the sound, I'd be like, stop it. Like, wait, I don't want you to do that right now. You know, I think some of the sample libraries where if you hit hard and it gives you a certain like bend or a different, you know, those types of things are interesting. I think, you know, having modulation controllers and stuff that were only available within a certain range of velocity or something would be kind of an interesting thing to, that way it's not there until you do something performance-wise to bring it out. Yeah, that's a fun place. I've also seen a lot, people are working on taking samples and finding ways to try to interpolate between a piano and a choir. And somewhere in the middle where they meet is kind of interesting, but having something that can do that in real time, I think we still need faster computers for that. I don't think we're to the point where we can really do that type of complex interpolation. Yeah,
and that's FFT based stuff. That's which I don't really have much experience.
Yeah. One of our wonderful people was Ableton Live has added some parameters for MPE control. I think it's similar in a way to how what's the company, Bitwig? They have that as well, where you know you can play a chord and it shows up in the sequence, so then if you want you can drag the tuning of the second note and it'll just change the tuning of that note. With MPE, I would think Plasmonic should be able to do that type of thing as well, because each note is in an MPE is separate pitch and so forth, right?
Yeah, well, if you play like this is the way I play my Rolly.
Right.
Sure, you slide one up and down. I mean, if I could play chords,
right,
then I could bend one up and down.
Right.
In the middle, yeah, it does that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
so
when I do it, then all the other notes go out of tune. But yeah,
I know that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you can do that, but now, you know, try to play something with it that doesn't sound like you're a first grade band student, you know? It's very easy to all of a sudden have, you know, oh, that's someone that needs more practice with their violin, you know, or something like that. It's like, okay. Now, someone's asking, what kind of musical productions do you see Plasmonic? That's a tough one, because Plasmonic has this new sound that I think if I'm a dance artist, I would want to have this kind of stuff with some girl sing over the top and a cool drum groove, but it could also be killer for cinematics and for it.
That's maybe more what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Those cinematic type stuff, but like we were saying before, all the sound designers that have worked with Plasmonic, they're doing their own thing, and it sounds like their sounds. You know, it doesn't sound like Plasmonic just always makes cinematic sounds. I'm getting a lot of different types of sounds. So
yeah, I was talking to Shane about this, and he's like, because when we first started working on the demo, and you sent it to us to evaluate and play with, and he's like, yeah, I don't really know what it can do. And then he got it with the patches, the patches that people started to make. And it's like, holy cow. Yeah, it really took off. It was inspiring to see what is coming out of it. And I think it's just great. You've got a really great little arsenal of people. And what's awesome is some of these, like Eric Young and Biomorphic, these are guys that have been around since like the early days of Absinthe. I mean, it's like
getting the old band together.
It's like getting the old band together, man, you know? It's awesome. But I seriously, congratulations. Do you have a release date? Is it like after the year, before the end of the year? Do you know?
No, it'll be before the end of the year. It's very soon.
Okay.
And I will announce it when it's ready.
Yeah. And I will echo the announcement. Maybe we can, we'll have a live stream celebrating it too when it comes out, so that everybody will know. when it's available for you to create. You can play it now. You can download the demo. It's like probably less than half of the final patches are
Yeah,
in the
it'll
demo.
have twice as many presets.
Right.
Putting the factory presets together has taken a lot longer than I expected,
Yeah.
and I appreciate what you do. I have a new appreciation for sound design.
Oh.
The people that work on the project and put everybody's sounds together and make sure the levels
Yes.
are correct and everything.
Well, and it's these the real-time controls at the bottom are such a challenge to set up. I mean, that's where I get kind of like glazed eyeball over, where because it's like each one of these needs to be connected to things that when you're playing it, it will change and do interesting things to the sound. And we talked about this before the stream started. As far as Plasmonic goes, is this something that's just released and done, or do you see development and further things to add to Plasmonic over time?
I'm sure I'll add to it. I'm sure there'll be new stuff. There'll definitely be new content. There'll definitely be new,
Yeah,
more factory presets and stuff. The impulses,
yes,
waveforms, stuff like that. There'll be more of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Which is more like content.
Right.
There'll definitely be updates, and
Awesome.
there'll probably be other features.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to keep expanding on it.
Okay. Oh, I have more questions. Someone, I don't think I'm going to ask that question. Is there any absinthe legacy in Plasmonic?
No. There's no, there's no absinthe code in Plasmonic.
Right.
That's what you mean. I mean, I'm not allowed to do that.
Right.
But, and I wouldn't want to anyway.
Right.
No, it's all new.
It's new DNA.
Plasmonic. The algorithms and everything, it's all really new stuff.
Right.
The oscillators are something totally different.
Right.
From what I've done before, or what I think anybody's done actually.
Yeah. No, the oscillators have some
even
real
the stuff that looks conventional on the inside. It's actually really new stuff.
Yes.
So no, there's no absinthe. I mean, there's my taste.
Yes.
And a lot of, especially the early absinthe presets, focused on those like comb filter type sounds, which is sort of like Plasmonic.
Right.
So I mean, that kind of ties in.
I have some more questions that have been sent. So we have the randomize. When is there a date for release? Yeah. So the date of release, he's still doing the final voicing, and so when it's ready, it's ready. You can't rush something like that. How is the CPU? It's fine, thank you. Yeah. Depends on if it's raining outside, I think, right? Some sound, it can, as you play more notes of polyphony, it will take up more CPU. There might be optimizations over time because it's new. This is 1.0, and 1.0 is always...
Well, I'm focusing more on stability.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, that's the focus, and I haven't had much complaints about the CPU.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's higher than it should be. I mean, I think it can be brought down.
Yeah.
But it's pretty comparable to other recent instruments.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah. No,
it's not heavy. People tell me it's not heavy on the CPU.
No, and I agree with that from my working with it and so forth. Mark asked a little bit more asking about the MPE implementation. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And I can show on the screen, when you go to the parameter list, down here, there's MPE pressure, MPE slide. There's these parameters that can be added. Now, they're grayed out for me. Is that because it doesn't sense an MPE controller? Or is that a setting somewhere?
Say that again?
When I look on
I can't see what you're doing, so...
Yeah, I don't know if I can share while I'm doing this. I'm looking at the modulation page.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the list, after release velocity, there's MPE pressure and MPE slide. And for me, they're grayed out. I can't assign that. That might be because of the parameter that I'm doing, right?
You have to set it to MPE mode.
Oh, okay. In settings.
So, up where you set the polyphony and stuff, there's next to the preset name. You click on that.
Right.
The thing shows MIDI channel and stuff like that.
Right.
And select MPE mode.
So we have maximum voices, MIDI mode, MPE. I see.
MPE.
And then you have multi-channel, poly, and mono.
The reason I did that is because I wanted to have just each preset works with MPE or with conventional controllers. And if you've set the preset up with MPE controllers and you're playing it with a regular keyboard, then it doesn't work anymore.
That's actually really smart to do it that way.
So, you know, there's these two modes, and when you're in standard mode, then it turns off the MPE macros.
Right. So if you click up here and you go to MIDI mode and change to MPE, you have some controls for the bend range, bend down, slider, stuff like that. But now when you go to the controls, like if I go to the filter cutoff, I will now see the MPE parameters are available to be assigned. That's actually really smart to do it that way because, you know, I've seen like Equator and so forth, other things that come with Rolly, they have the MPE version and then they have a straight version.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to.
Yeah, this stage you can kind of have both, and it's like, well, how are you going to use this? Oh, I'm going to use this with MPE, so I go turn it on. So if you do have a Rolly keyboard and you want to try it with MPE mode, you need to change your MIDI mode, right?
Definitely.
And then once you do that, the patches now respond to MPE.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Excellent. That's wonderful. So yeah, let me see what else I have in my question list. I want to get through, make sure everything's good. CPU. So one of our wonderful Guru Nation people asks if the interface will change. Like, I don't know if he means like by changing colors.
I don't know. It's
that's kind of low priority typically.
It's kind of low priority now. I mean, a couple of people have asked about being able to change the colors and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Same customer also asked for the infinite sustain pedal like you had in Absinthe.
That's the etherizer that does that.
Ah.
I don't have plans for granular types of effects.
Right.
You can get really long sustain, like with the sympathetic effect.
Right.
But that kind of depends what note you're playing, if it makes it ring or not. But that can, and the sustain pedal is a modulation source. So, and the main reason I do that is for that kind of thing. Like, you could use the sustain pedal to make, to turn up the feedback or turn down the damping of the effects, so that it like rings more. I mean, kind of like a piano.
Right.
You know, you hold the pedal down and you play one note, and it makes all the other notes kind of ring a little bit.
Right.
Anyway, so you could kind of do sustain type stuff with that.
Right.
And actually, the FDN. Now, this is a weird sound, and I haven't seen anybody really do this yet. And I'll need to start doing videos to show how to do this stuff.
Yeah. What does FDN stand for?
FDN stands for Feedback Delay Network, and that's kind of a standard thing, building block for reverbs. But this is not a reverb. This is like a small FDN. It doesn't have enough delays to get
the recursive flow
you'd want in a reverb. It's more of a diffuse delay.
Right.
And it's good for modulated delay effects.
Right.
And now if you turn sustain up the saturation up all the way.
Right.
And then you can turn the feedback up, and it can get these weird, perfectly sustained kind of noise in the background. And it gets replaced by what you play. It's hard to explain. I mean, I can't really demonstrate it.
Right.
I need to make a patch.
Right. You have
and
to have an
I'm
example
not,
set up.
I don't have audio connected.
Right.
But
Another time, we can
yeah,
definitely do.
but there's a way to get these really interesting sustained sounds using that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's not like the etherizer. It's
Right.
a little different from that.
Right. Someone was asking about oversampling. Does that play into this at all?
No, not at all. It doesn't. I don't even think in terms of oversampling anymore. This is just maybe sounds obscure. It's the kind of stuff I think about all day. I mean, I think more in terms of there needs to be some ultrasonic headroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there needs to be some space between 20 kilohertz, assuming that's the highest frequency we need, and the Nyquist frequency. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
you need to be able to have kind of a fairly smooth roll off, kind of a smooth low pass filtering towards that, rather than a situation where your Nyquist frequency is 22 kilohertz,
Mm-hmm.
like with the CD player, and you want to be able to get up to 20 kilohertz, right? So you
Right.
need to have this brick wall low pass filter.
Right.
And this to me is a big problem. And I know that sounds kind of obscure,
Right.
but I need to have this a certain amount of ultrasonic headroom. That's what I call it. I've
Right.
never heard anyone else call it that. But so internally, Plasmonic operates at a minimum sampling rate of 88.2K.
Mm.
So if your DAW is a 44.1K or 48K, then it's 2 times oversampling. But
Right.
if you're operating at 88.2K and up, then there's no oversampling.
Right.
But the anti-aliasing and stuff, it doesn't rely on having more
Right. Resolution.
oversampling.
Right.
No, it works in a really different way.
Well, I like that.
And it needs to have a little bit of space above 20 kilohertz to work,
Right.
but it's not the oversampling, typical oversampling use. I don't know if that made any sense at all.
No, it does. You know, you need the math. There's a certain amount of math for the sonic response that everything is doing inside of Plasmonic, and so you've calculated for that, and you don't need to have that adjust, right?
The algorithms are really different from the usual thing, and so it really doesn't rely on oversampling.
Someone was asking, for someone who doesn't do their own sound tweaking much, what are the distinguishing things about Plasmonic versus other synths?
Well, for one thing, just in terms of the sound, it's really focused on resonance and kind of complex resonances, like acoustic sounds, like real world sounds, sounds that are really dynamic and that really respond to the way you're playing. I really want to have the kind of experience you get with an acoustic instrument.
Yeah, and it has a lot of that to it. It's like samples, but it's not, because it's alive and changing all the time. That's what's so fun with it. It's, you guys, this is definitely a big deal for the year. This is a really unique instrument. I could talk to you for another hour, my friend, easily. And
we'll do that another time.
We'll have to do this another time for sure.
I'm getting a sore throat now.
I know, when you sit in the room, like these live streams, every week I have to talk for 90 minutes. So I wear my voice out each week. But if you don't do it, it's like, you're just in your private development and, just talking to your kids and stuff like that. Now, where do you live? Little about Brian.
I live about 40 miles south of Fontainebleau, south of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I live near Fontainebleau in France.
But you were born in the United States, right?
I grew up in Kansas.
Okay.
Near Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I met my wife, who's French, at Kansas University. Where I was studying composition. Learning electronic music. They had an ARP 2500 and 2600, and those are the instruments I the first synthesizers I ever got to work with.
Right.
Anyway, so that, yeah, I met my wife in Kansas, and we lived there for a while, and then we moved to France. Just
right.
Kind of on a whim.
Yeah.
So we've been here for a long time.
Yeah. And you like it there?
Yeah. France is cool.
France is cool.
Yeah, France is cool.
Well, they have good food, that's for sure. And
yeah,
I mean, great culture. Well, thank you for spending some time with us. This has been really exciting. We will, of course, spread the word and share when it is out and available.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Thanks for talking about Plasmonic. And
yeah.
Thanks for making sounds for it.
Oh.
You made some really cool sounds.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. We will talk again. Everybody say thank you to... Everybody give their... We do shout outs. People shout out at the end from all over the round. Say your shout outs from where you are in the world for Brian. I'm going to say shout out from Portland, Oregon. From PDX. If I can spell. Woodstock, Georgia. Lake in Finland. From Destin, Florida. Ubard says hello. Austin shout out. Quebec, Canada. From Norway. From Chiswick. From Switzerland. I mean, that's what's so fun with this is we're talking right now to people in every corner of the world. It's just...
It's amazing.
It blows my mind. From Amsterdam, from Columbus, Ohio. Oh, Dominique. Hello, Brian. Thank you from Paris.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are neighbors.
Merci, Dominique.
Yes, merci. From Germany and Romania. From Canyon Lake, Texas. You got Dublin, Poland. It's just crazy. Wonderful stuff. Well, keep programming away. Good luck. We'll be talking, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to work with it before it comes out. I love getting a chance to work with something as new and exciting, and one of the things that's going to be what's really fun, guys, is this really goes deep to that thing of electronics being organic. Trying not to just make it a sawtooth with a calculated perfect envelope. It's more about an organic life. When you play this thing, you feel like it's an instrument with its own spirit. You really found something cool here, my friend. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's amazing hearing you say stuff like that.
Well, it's exciting. I've been trying for years to get things to be as musically, we touch only by keys, and you try to get to where you feel like it's got some way of doing. I love dance stuff that's everything's 127 and full volume, but I like stuff where you have you can express yourself with it, and you can do that with this. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Cool. We will talk soon, and thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Be well, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. Cool. All right, I'll talk to you later, Brian.
Talk to you later.
Bye. So there you go. Brian Clevinger. He's such a great person. I have known him for over 20 years, about 20 years. When I sent him patches for Absinthe 1, I said, I love this thing. And I'd made some patches, and next thing I knew, they were in the factory voicing for Absinthe 1, which was fun. And yeah, I've worked with Native Instruments, some on libraries for Absinthe. And I'll show you the patches I created. He's in the process of finalizing these. This is Born to Skywalk. And he has to connect everything. I didn't do the programming of the knobs. So that's what's taking him all the time, is he has all these patches to get the controllers for. But isn't that a cool character? Let me turn off my microphone for a second because I'm hearing the wonderful clunk of keys, and it's better if you hear this. I'll just play through some of the sound. Has such a cool character to it. Kill my microphone again. This is one where I have LFOs changing the trigger speed. See how it's being changed? So I could click this and I could go to the modulation source and an LFO. You go over here and change where you want to start at. So Blue Wonder, could you give a very rough and basic overview of how to create some basic pad from scratch? I wouldn't do that in Plasmonic right now, but I can show you in, I mean, the definition of what a pad is so if we were to go to something, let's say OBXD, the main characteristics of a pad is that it plays with a slow attack and a slow release. So you need to go to what's called the amp, EG, or here we have it called the loudness envelope, and make the attack slow and the release long. And now it's a pad. That's the basic building block to make a pad, is just to change the envelope. Then you can get at other things. If you want to have harmonics change, you could have the envelope for the filter, have it have a slow up and then have a slow down. And then depending on how strong your filter EG is how much. And I take my hands off and the sound immediately goes back to being dark because the filter envelope, it gets bright and then it goes away. So I need to have the release match the release of the volume. Right? So that's the basic tenets of a pad. You can take any sound and just learning the controls of where is the envelope in what you're looking at is so important. So let's say let's go to just like a nice unison in here. So go down here to the Psi unison and Guru sampler. Here it's a synth. Fast attack. Here's the amplitude envelope. So you just bring this up to be like 5 or 6 seconds. And have the release be like 7 seconds. You have a pad. And then to make harmonic interest, the filter, if I wanted, I could turn on the filter, which is off, and then have the filter cutoff controlled by, let's say, a random LFO. That gives it nice life and motion. And let's also have the filter envelope get involved in this. So you can get very complex very quickly. I'd like to see how you program sounds in Plasmonic. Okay. I'll do this for a moment. Let's see, Prismatic, Plasmonic. A lot of Plasmonic is designed more on attack qualities going into it. It's a resonating instrument, so it's really not, it can do pads for sure. But this stuff here is about, here are the attack elements and stuff. So if we go File, Initialize. Now, instead of the impulse, I'm gonna turn this off by turning off everything here, and instead turn on noise. And then I have controls here. For the type of noise going into this. And then you just go to your envelope, which is the top one, is the one that's used for the basic sound characteristics, and give yourself a long attack and release. And this is one of those where maybe you want to start here, hit the modulation and have envelope B turned on, and have this be a little bit different shape, decay, fairly short, back down. And we're gonna have this above. You have control over how it affects the sound, whether it's bipolar, positive or negative polar. So this is very basic what I'm showing you here. What's fun is while this is doing this, I could turn on the impulse, have the impulse triggered by a pulse. Have this set to BPM. And then I'd be able to, again, it's a new, it takes me a while to play with Plasmonic before I get to where I'm into something interesting, because it's new. That's why I'm a little hesitant to I'm not ready to give you a full demo on how Plasmonic works. I was learning how it works when I made the sounds that I created. I'm not an expert on Plasmonic at this point, so play with it and learn like me. It's a matter of working with it, but you see the basics, how you can work with all these components. It takes some work. You have saturation controls, which are cool. You have really cool effects. Let's turn off our impulse. So you can see you can go some interesting places. Again, I'm not ready to do a demo on Plasmonic, so I'm just showing you some of the basic rough stuff of how it works. I'm still learning it. I need to spend more time with it, to be honest with you, before I could say, oh, here's how you do this sound and how you do that sound. What's cool is when you initialize it, hit initialize right here. You have a number of different attacks And they all will produce different harmonics into the resonator. And then play with the parameters. And if you want to go more traditional synthesis, then you can turn off the impulses and just use sawtooth or whatever waveform is set up here. If I want to make this into a pad, just a song. Right? So again, I'm not here to give you a full demo of Plasmonic right now. But download the demo, play with the patches. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's really, really interesting. And it's new. It's not something that we have seen before, which is cool. We need that. We need people like Brian that are creating new things like this. So that's pretty cool. All right, I have a little bit of time left and I got a lot to show you. I want to show you Spectrasonics did some really nice updates. If you own Trilian, you're going to be thrilled with the update. Trilian now has pretty much the same parameters as Omnisphere inside of Trilian, but it's still only 2 layers, which is fine for bass. There's some really, really cool patches. Going all sorts of cool places. You now have an arpeggiator. You have the window pane over here like Omnisphere, where if you're programming and you say, I want to assign this to a filter or to an LFO, over here pop up the LFO parameters. It used to be Trilian was just basically this area here. So they have made it more into the Omnisphere family. You have all the cool tools that you have inside of Omnisphere's Arpeggiator are here. There's a ton of new, like 500 new patches or something like that. The arpeggiators you can see can do slides and stuff like that. So if it's a free update, so if you own Trilian, which if you're not familiar with Trilian, it is truly one of those must-own instruments, especially if you're needing to do basses. This is the acoustic, the fingered bass. All of these are so usable and great for all sorts of musical. Chapman stick. If you get to the slap, R&B, Pettichucci. Let's get to the slap. The slap is killer. Bass. It takes a while. There's a whole bunch of sample maps I have to. I'm gonna turn off my microphone so you can hear me play this without my microphone thumping. So let it finish. And what's fun is inside of Unify, we could easily duplicate this layer to have 2 Trilian running and go to the second one and go to synth basses and find something that works really cool with this. Oh, I'm on voiceover, so So you could easily layer and split and do all sorts of things, save new patches with multiple Trilian doing, since it can do acoustic and synth basses, the two together are super powerful. Also, I should point out, it's really cool if you own Omnisphere, that when you install Trilian, it automatically goes through and registers in Omnisphere that you own and have installed Trilian. And you can play all the Trilian patches inside of Omnisphere, but even more cool than that is there is an additional library. They've changed the name of it. It's now called the Trilian Creative. It used to be the Trilian VIP, but they've gone with their creative concept like they did with Keyscape Creative, where Keyscape and Omnisphere samples together. They've done that with the Trilian Creative Library, and there's all sorts of wonderful patches. Oh wait, I'm on the Trilian Library. I want to be Trilian Creative. Upright Magic is just so cool. From Latte. Some of these they could have made inside Trilian, I think, for sure. But there's some stuff in here you'll get to that's a combination of the glitchy samples of Omnisphere and all the samples in Omnisphere with the samples of Trilian. So you can get your acoustic bass and synth stuff going on inside of Omnisphere by itself if you want as well. Haunted sleigh rides, all sorts of stuff. So it's cool when you own Spectrasonics products, they work with each other, and Omnisphere is their flagship kind of hub that everything else, you can use Keyscape by itself, but you can also use it inside of here. I could go to the Keyscape library and I could call up something like the ballad piano. I could go to multi-mode, go to stack mode and turn this on. And just like this, I could say stop here, go to part 2, and go to the Trilian Creative and call up that cool bass. And it should play, but it's not. Why aren't you playing? I got it in stack mode. It should just... Huh. It's still trying to upload. There it is. I don't know why Upright Magic wasn't playing. Let's see if it loads this time. There. So I need to fix my split point 1 octave up. And just like this, I can go to the piano. If you hit right here, you can get to the Omnisphere page. Let's take it down an octave. So now I'm using Keyscape inside of Omnisphere. I have Trilian being used for the left-hand bass. And then on top of this, I could go to part 3. You can have up to 8 sounds. We could go to, say, like Omnipulse 2. Maybe find some sort of a BPM pad. There's got to be something here that's like sharp mystery. This. So you can combine Omnisphere patches, Keyscape patches, Trilian patches, all together. So it's a very cool system that they have. Usually once you own one Spectrasonics product, you want to own them all. So I can highly recommend all of them. This update is very nice. So if you do want to do splits, you go to the stack mode and you turn on stack mode. And they made these brighter, they changed the colors a little bit. But here you can choose where you have the key ranges. If you click in the top, you can do fades. I don't think they can do curvatures. We do the curvature thing inside of Unify, but you do have fade capabilities if you drag up here at the top. And I think they can do it with volume because it's built into their plugin, which is very cool. But you can have up to 8 layers. It turns on 4 by default, and you can right click to add or remove parts. If I go to this part and I right click, I can say remove this part because I only want to have 3 parts. If I'm doing something more complex, I can go down here and say add part 4, 5, 6. Now I have 6 layers. I could program up with 6 different sounds from all of the plugin guru libraries, all of the factory patches in Omnisphere, everything in Keyscape, Keyscape Creative, Trilian, Trilian Creative. It's all good stuff. Really, really fun. So that update, it makes it also compatible with Big Sur. I have confirmed it works over here on my computer on Big Sur. Unify is working on Big Sur. We're still doing testing, but it loads up and plays and sees MIDI controlled stuff, and so far so good. So we're really happy to be supporting the new update Apple has brought out of the gate. It's not one of those things where you need to wait while we test and try to figure out why something's going wrong. We haven't found anything that's doing wrong yet, which is really exciting. So that is a nice update. So if you own Trilian, if you don't, it's one of those must-have kind of a synths that you want to have because bass is so important. Users are complaining. Oh, I'm sorry. What are your comments? Okay. Laborial is in here. Huh? Is Abraham Laborial in here? Yeah, Greg Fillingaze did a great demo. So I'm looking at comments. How much RAM is to have to run all you show now, Skippy? I don't know, Ivar. That I'm not checking that as I'm going. What other comments is there? The problem with Trilian is that it always sounds with that wet in the sound. Doesn't set well. I don't know about that. I don't notice it to be that wet. That's something in many cases you can change. Can make plasmonic sound inside the combo box in stereo. I'm looking at what you guys are saying, reading the comments. I don't want to, sorry if I do my demo sometimes and don't pay attention, but I want to make sure I cover what I need to. But I don't see a question. So I'm gonna go on to the next thing to show you because I got like 10 minutes. Is Hex Drum working for everybody? Oh, Axel, you're welcome. Oh, yes, he's one of the, yes, there's a whole bunch of different players. They actually were in Trilogy, which was the first of the libraries that came out for bass. And Eric had John Patitucci, Abraham Laborio, and Marcus Miller were the players that played their instruments for the libraries. So that's a really nice part. Trilian, the new basses that are in Trilian are not from those artists. They're recorded and performed by someone else, but there is still the Marcus Miller and Abraham Laborio basses and all that kind of stuff in there. In Unify, where is the hit single preset? I don't know what that means. What's a hit single what preset? Anyway, so there is a new plugin you guys should be aware of for synth drums. This dude called Hex Drum. Very flexible. 7 sounds, kick, snare, 3 toms, closed hi-hat. If you right-click on any of these, you see a label you can choose between whether it's hi-hats, crash, ride, hand clap, all sorts of things you can label it. So if you want to make sounds beyond, in fact, it has one at the very end that's just special effects for weird stuff that you can't really describe. And it has, I believe, 40 kits to choose from, including... What's really nice is you can hit the little settings icon. You can change the notes so that they play on different notes. So you can hit reset to reset it back. But if you want to play on different notes on the keyboard, you're able to do that. I have unified this library, so it is available out of the box. When you get it, I put a link in the video description. Hopefully it's working. I had a problem where I had messed up the MIDI file name of the folder, and things weren't working, but we have since fixed that. There is there's grooves that I've made, as well as just the normal kits. Like Birdie is like more of a hip hop. Thank you, Shane, for putting the link in. That is the link to get this drum synth. I really love this one. I was like, okay, well, Simmons were used for the Dance Hall Days from Wang Chung. I love that song, and so I wanted to recreate it. Oh, I gotta be at the right tempo because I'm way too fast. Sound a bit thin? Well, they sound great in a mix. I've played with them some in a mix. Simmons had that kind of a sound quality to it. This isn't like your trap drum set, but I don't know. I don't think this sounds particularly thin. I mean, you could program this any way you want. You go to the kick. There's two types of pitch bend. One pitch bend is where it's A, where it's going above the pitch that you set and it settles down at the pitch that you're at. No? They both are interacting with pitch in a weird way. I kind of wish it was not working the way it works, because as you bring up bend, instead of making the bend more, it makes it more, but it changes the resting pitch. It's just a different way of working. This might be the way Simmons worked. I don't know. Oh. Why am I getting CPU spikes? It shouldn't be spiking. I think it's Logic is freaking out at the moment. Okay, Logic, cool down. Yeah, it's running kind of high. I'm not sure why. I am streaming and stuff, which makes it a little higher than normal, but usually it's not a problem. Anyway, Dance Hall Days was fun because I have a dry, and then I have a gated effect as a separate channel, and I'm using Pump House for the gated effect. So if you want a true gate, you can do this type of stuff with Pump House. It's pretty cool. You know, all sorts of fun ways of going with it. But it's a fun synth. It's for drums, if you need something of this nature. Synthetic, inexpensive, fun. It's 7 different sounds. It's synthesis based. There's no samples. I have a video on YouTube about this if you want to see a little bit more information on all the parameters in it. It works great in Unify so far from what I've been able to tell. Suddenly back in 1985, yes. Will you be streaming from your cell phone? No. Okay, I think we'll wrap up. If there's any questions, ask away. Oh, thank you, Axel. Very nice of you. Always want to get new things for you guys. We are getting closer on Discover Station, just so you know. And I'm working on stuff for the Big Bad Beats. That is a library that I need to make a whole bunch of the vocoder drum things for. There's a free library coming out for it as well. Hey, Will, please email me and I can help you with your authorization count situation. The latest with Discover Station, we've been going through and naming things. We're kind of where Brian is, where we have these 8 controllers that now we need to connect to all of these patches, so that you have control over the different volumes of everything. It's really, really fun how it's turning out. Here's a couple examples. I'm going to be making some more of these. This is the brass woodwinds and strings working together. Takes a minute to load everybody and so this is all coming. Yeah, my computer is definitely being worked a little bit harder than it normally is. I'm not sure why. And what's fun, it's tempo synced, so you can go to other libraries, add fun things to this, say down tempo spy, and yeah, everything's off just a little bit. I'm not sure why. But this is using, for those of you that are new and haven't seen this, this is using Discover Station, which is it's using the BBC Symphony Orchestra plugin, which is a wonderful plugin that's affordable from Spitfire Audio. You have all of these sections, the green being strings, blue being woodwinds, red being brass, and then the yellow being percussion and like harp, all those sorts of instruments. And because they are all loaded in one plugin where you could just go, you're not having to load these up across the keyboard from a list or so forth. They're all available. Because of that, we're able to access those on different layers inside of Unify. So like if you see the strings, they're 5 different zones, right? Well, you can play, if you choose this string section, if you expand this, you'll see it only covers a certain range of the keyboard. And then it stops because that's the range of that instrument. So inside of Unify, we're doing things where like, here's the full ensemble long, which is using all of those strings to play at once. So it's kind of like their Abbey Road 1, where they've mixed everything, so when it plays all together, it sounds great. Normally you need to sequence each of these parts, but Unify, you can play them all in real time. And if you go to the Plugin Guru's Unify page, Unify, right here, let me see. Right here, if you go to the Unify page, at the bottom, if you scroll way down here we have the libraries that are for Unify that just use Unify. All the unified libraries, I need to update this, but Hex Drum, I need to update that link. I don't think it works right. So let me see if it works right. Yeah, I'll have to fix that. So sorry about that, but I'll fix that in just a short bit. Scroll down the list a little farther. Here's our libraries that we sell that have been unified. And at the very bottom, you can download the BBC Discover Station 6 bonus patches. This lets you get access and you can download. There's 6 patches. There's for the strings and for the brass, where I map them across the keyboard so you can see and play this And then we're working on a library now where we're combining and creating different. These are not in the free demo version, where you have ooze and pads and string. We're doing stuff like there's a BPM. I'm gonna do some more of these before it comes out. Is it a BPM pad, piano life pulse, which has kind of a cool. Right? So stuff like that. And then we get crazy. I'm working with Jeff Stradling, and we're making all sorts of things where play one note and does complete film cues, basically. But it can transpose. And we have all sorts of different types of films that we've done, as well as different composers, like Haydn sounds like. So we're doing things that are kind of unique and special because Unify has MIDI file players, combo boxes in here doing all sorts of crazy things with filtering and transposing different parts to play in the keyboard register right for what Jeff needed it to do for. He's an orchestrator. He's actually orchestrated for big film, so forth. So he is very knowledgeable in getting things to work in a way that like you would actually, this is the range of that instrument and how it works. Yeah, memory is definitely. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. We had a crash. Everybody decided to poop out. I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything. Just something slowed it down. That rarely happens, but it can happen. So that's what we're working on. There's other stuff under the that I can't tell you guys about, but yeah. So thank you. I don't know if I would I'm not sure I would update to Big Sur yet. iOS. Illogical, yes. If I was a musician and I'm writing music and I need to have access to all my tools, there's a lot of software companies that have said they're not compatible yet with Big Sur. So I would check, make sure that you have everything you need to work. I thought they were going to bring out so that this could, I got to do more research on Big Sur to know what I'm talking about, but there's not a way to run your iPad apps. I thought it could do something like that. I need to find out what's going on there. But thank you for joining. Thank you for this live stream. It's been really fun. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the end. Trilian update is awesome. Hex Drum is great if you need synth drums and you don't want to spend a lot of money. Download the demo for Plasmonic. It is a work of art. It is a really cool, unique instrument. It was awesome. Thank you so much to Brian Clevinger for joining us. That was a real treat. I have interviewed him 2 other times, and the first time was really difficult. We had really bad latency, and I was talking all over the top of him, and in the comments, people were like pretty rough on me for how I did the interview. So I've learned to be a little bit better, I think, I hope. But this is a cool instrument. I'm really excited to see what you guys think of this. It's cool. It has a different sound to it. The MPE control, make sure, I put a link in the chat for the video, but check out what all they can do. It's really cool. So thank you. We'll see you in a week. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll find something fun to do. All right? I mean, you know, this is a live stream that kind of like reacts based on what happens during the week. So, you know, updates came out for Spectrasonics. So it's like, hey, we got to talk about that. So, Wednesday, yeah. Every Saturday, 12 o'clock, I'm here doing a live stream. So just come hang out. We do it every Saturday. So thank you to all of you. Hands together, head bowed. Let's do our shout outs. Shout out to all. From Portland, Oregon. We're about to go into a little bit more serious shutdown mode because of like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was 7 people sick in a day, and we're up to 1,000 plus a day coming down with COVID. So it's gotten more serious. Boulder, Colorado, Lakeside, Florida. Good to see you, Tom. Munich, Denmark, Liverpool, UK, Stockholm. Yeah, you guys did shout outs earlier for Brian. I read them off to him. So this is ours. Yes, wear your masks everywhere you go, please. Just, it's protecting you, it's protecting others. It will give us a chance to fight this thing. New Jersey, good to see you, Steve, in Oregon, my Oregon neighbor. Daniela in Germany, good to see you all. Chris, good to see you, my friend. Keep the creative juices flowing, all, and we will see you next week, okay?